After a two-day manhunt, Sharif Shekat, the 29-year-old man believed to have killed 3 people at a Christmas market in the city of Strasbourg on Tuesday, has been killed by police. After his attack in France on Tuesday, he was injured in a shootout, but he escaped. While a manhunt involving hundreds of security forces followed. Then yesterday, according to the Paris prosecutor's office, Sharif Shekat was killed. He had a long criminal history and had been on a watch list of potential extremists. Olivier Guitta, a counter-terrorism expert with the geopolitical risk consultancy Global Strat, spoke to me earlier.
What's pretty damning is that it was just by chance that 3 policemen found out about Shekat's whereabouts when they saw him walking in the street and looking suspicious, and he turned around and shot at them. And then they returned fire and were able to kill him.
Unbelievable in a way, isn't it, that you have 700 or more police officers who've been spread far and wide, even across the border, and yet he was right under their nose, or in the very place they were least likely to look at, because I'm sure many would have assumed he wouldn't go back to his hometown.
Exactly. But when you see the history of some of those terrorists, going back to the case of Salah Abdeslam after the November 2015 Paris attack, he went back to his old neighborhood of Molenbeek in Brussels, and it took over 4 months for French and Belgian security services to catch him. And one can only assume that there was complicity, because one point we didn't mention is he was wounded on Tuesday after the attack by a military force. So it was not that he was 100% fit and that he could basically go underground. One can assume that some people from the neighborhood helped him, because his face was all over the TV in France, and he was all of a sudden named enemy number 1 in France. The investigation is far from over, and they're looking at accomplices.
What can you tell us, Olivier, about Sharif Shekat? Are there any details that terrorism experts or the police are revealing?
He has the profile of a petty thief that goes into jail and gets radicalized there. So as early as 2015, he was put on French terror watch list. So they knew about him. They knew that he was close to groups such as Islamic State. They knew that he was part of the jihadist scene in Strasbourg, that a lot of his friends had traveled to Iraq and Syria to join Islamic State. So as much as they can try to track down and monitor the potential jihadists, I think that there was a mishap in terms of the human intelligence to keep tabs on him, because that guy was arrested in 3 countries, France, Germany, and Switzerland, had a long history of criminality. If you add that up to being radicalized in prison, this is exactly the profile of somebody that will go on a terror attack.
And that is Olivier Guitta, who's a counter-terrorism expert with the consultancy group Global Strat.